even God cannot create a riot. So tell me what exactly happened today, because what we saw today, sir, was widespread violence. It was in the northern districts, it was in the southern districts, and all of this seemingly to protest the arrest of certain leaders of the PFI. How can anyone justify taking the law into their own hands and indulging in this kind of rank hooliganistic behavior?
Good evening, Zaka. You very rightly articulated that nobody has the right to take law in his own hands. But much as some people would like to believe that everybody has a democratic right to give peaceful protest and rightful resentment, the democratic right to voice their dissent. This is not a rightful dissent. This is violence, and the naked kind of violence. Obviously, the Kerala police were caught on the wrong foot. They did not probably anticipate that this would lead to hurling of petrol bombs to rival camps, and also this level of vandalism and widespread violence and breakdown of law and order machinery. Now, of course, perhaps they are very professional police. They would have taken their reinforcements, got reinforcements from the central government as well. But yes, they should have anticipated and had actionable intelligence to ensure that life is normal. We have disturbing scenes of bus drivers flying government buses, putting on helmets in anticipation of the fact that perhaps they may be attacked and they may be subjected to brick batting. Now, perhaps the police know what anti-riot gear is and what anti-riot drill is. Once the police also, I give you a second corollary to what the police, if the police want, there shall be no wanton destruction of property, and there cannot be anybody taking law in his own hands. Make it very clear. Let this be very clear. Kerala is a very professional police force, and once this has happened, I'm sure there'll be no replication. And those who have been identified in the video and the CCTV cameras must be booked tonight, not tomorrow. Tonight itself, picked up and then sent to jail and given a lesson of a lifetime.
Over 100 people have been rounded up across the state, allegedly belonging to the PFI. But, you know, the thing that I find absolutely astounding is, why are you targeting public transport vehicles? What is the fault of these public transport drivers that they have to wear helmets and drive the buses for fear of being pelted with stones? It's not like they came and arrested the PFI leaders. But be that as it may, let me ask Ghanshyam Tiwari. What is critical here, Ghanshyam Tiwari, is there is an explicit Kerala High Court order in 2019 which has banned flash hartals. In fact, that order goes on to say that if anyone wants to call out a hartal, they have to give 7 days notice. What the PFI has done today is basically cock a snook at that judgment. Surely the PFI is not above the law of this land.
Good evening, Zaka, to you, the viewers, and my fellow co-panelists. The law of the land and the way the government sees the law of the land is visible in the kind of hate architecture that BJP has put in India. Where a PFI becomes the news item, they have the ability to create this destruction of property, take law in their own hands, and the Home Minister is missing. Where is the Home Minister of India? What is he doing? Is he stopping PFI, which is apparently, as per BJP, across the country? No. He is further building the hate architecture in Bihar. The Supreme Court is talking about the role of media that participates in the hate architecture sponsored by BJP and this government. When you have the national government working to build hate architecture, when you have international agencies talking about how the over 55% of anti-Muslim hate tweets on internet came from India, and definitely BJP is a major participant, BJP supporting media is a major participant, then you don't know which is the end where you will start solving the problem. We can discuss the problem, but neither you nor the respective Vikram Singh knows that which is the right end of the problem. I believe the right end of the problem is Home Minister of India. He has to decide whether it is he is participating as Hate Minister of India, or he is participating as a Home Minister of India whose responsibility is communal harmony is maintained. Organizations that are against communal harmony, whether it is BJP and RSS based organizations, or whether it is PFI, those organizations are checked, and the federal government is not playing against the state government for petty politics to engineer such organizations. The last but not the least, you have Mr. Siddaramaiah, former Chief Minister of Karnataka, going on record and saying that BJP is supporting PFI and SDPI and such organizations to divide society. So if BJP is at the core of the hate architecture in India, and Home Minister is unsure whether it is his Home Minister or hate minister, then we will continue to have discussions, but they will not be meaningful.
Since yesterday, I've been hearing this argument. Many are calling this equivalence. Many are calling this false equivalence, that you can't just go after violence on one side. Yes, the PFI indulged in violence. No one should, in their right mind, condone that. But equally, at the same time, there's violence from the Hindu side as well. Yati Narsingh Anand, for example, is still roaming scot-free. What about hate speech that comes from the Hindu side? How come there isn't action, or at least timely action, that is taken against that?
Destruction, vandalism, anarchy. A day after the biggest crackdown on Popular Front of India, its members.
Back on with a quick recap of CNN News 18's mega exclusive on PFI's global footprint. It's a big wake-up call. In the UAE, there are regular visits by PFI leaders from Kerala to Abu Dhabi, Dubai. PFI leadership visits Muslim Brotherhood strongholds, money laundering and Hawala operation hubs, real estate and car rental businesses. Now, Saudi Arabia, the ops are fronted by Indian Social Forum and, of course, the Indian Fraternity Forum, or the IFF. They lure Indian nationals during Hajj. Money for terror ops is being sent to India via Hawala and gold smuggling. Funds pumped via e-wallet in the name of legal aid. In Oman, they work under the Social Forum umbrella with ISF and IFF. Kerala wing of the PFI, NDF, propagates radical ideology via Tarbiya. Big Hawala funding, 44 lakh has been sent to India directly to Rehab India Foundation. Radicalization via multiple fronts like the SF, ISF, WFS and of course the WSK. In Turkey, the base established with the help of Indian students and fundraising happening via students. Then we also have the nation like Qatar, where PFI Front Cultural Forum, popular among Malayali population. There is backing for the ISIS cause in Syria, and funds are collected for PFI SDPI transferred to India via Hawala. There is Kuwait, where Kuwait India Social Forum is very, very active. Rich Kuwaitis are radicalized using videos and funds are collected. This is the nature of the operations. They also have operations in Bahrain, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Bangladesh and Mauritius. Comprehensive information that we have shared with you here on CNN News 18. The deep dive investigation continues here on your channel. Winding up the right stand, brass tacks with Zaka next.
Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. There was widespread violence today in the state of Kerala, by and large, by PFI activists, a day after there was large-scale arrest of its leaders. Over 100 of PFI activists were rounded up yesterday in a multi-state operation by the NIA as well as local police. But today, in response to that, from Kannur and Kasargod in the north of Kerala to Thiruvananthapuram in the south, public transport was targeted, schools and colleges were shut, and business establishments and shops were attacked. And this is despite an explicit Kerala High Court order banning hartals and flash strikes. In fact, that order goes on to say whoever calls for the hartal without giving a 7-day advance notice period will have to pay for all the damages caused. Why should anyone resort to violence to make a political point? And why should there be any tolerance for anybody who takes the law into their own hands, no matter what their grievance may be?
Destruction, vandalism, anarchy. A day after the biggest crackdown on Popular Front of India, its members went on a rampage in Kerala and Tamil Nadu. The PFI had called a bandh to protest against the midnight raids and arrest of its key leaders by central agencies. But PFI members used their hartal call as an excuse to go on a vandalism spree. State-owned buses and auto rickshaws were pelted with stones.
Inside this bus, we can see that there are fragments of glass that is there all over. There are big stones that are inside this. So this is a condition in most of the vehicles where buses have been damaged like this.
Tires were burnt and even private vehicles were not spared.
That the Hartal supporters, they took away the key and blocked the road. Now the police have gave a direct connection, and now they have started this truck. So the technique was to just to block the truck and take away the key.
PFI workers were even caught on camera hurling petrol bombs at the offices of the RSS and the BJP. In some places, PFI workers tried to forcibly shut shops that were open despite their Hartal call, but locals gave it back to them. The protest turned violent. The Kerala High Court initiated suo motu cognizance against PFI leaders for calling flash Hartal despite it being banned by the court earlier.
So far in all across state, more than 400 persons have been put under preventive arrest, and more than 500 persons have been arrested.
From being a threat to national security to vandalizing public property, is it time to ban the PFI once and for all?
All right, how does it justify taking the law into one's own hands, no matter what your grievance may be? Let me go across to our full panel. Joining us on Brass Tacks tonight, Sushant Sareen is Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. Yasmin Farooqi is General Secretary of the SDPI. Yashwardhan Azad, former IPS officer. Majid Hydari, Senior Journalist, joining us. And Amina Begum Ansari is a political analyst. Let me start with Sushant Sareen. So today in the state of Kerala, private and public transport was targeted. Hundreds of passengers were left stranded in railway stations as well as on roads. Schools were completely shut down and so were colleges. Business establishments and shops were targeted, were pelted with stones. The point is, who is going to pay for all this public inconvenience that's been caused because one organization and its leaders have been arrested or rounded up?
Zaka, as far as I am aware, the law is very clear that the person who causes this kind of dislocation and disruption and destruction is to pay for the damages. I think the Supreme Court has pronounced on that. And in some of the states, that is actually being implemented as well. So I think that's the simple answer to your question. But I think the larger question is that the kind of street violence we saw today throughout Kerala, I think tells you a lot about the kind of street power that a radical organization like the PFI wields, and the kind of terror it can instill in the people by demonstrating its street power. So in a manner of speaking, their actions today, not just in Kerala, but in other states as well, actually validates the action which has been taken against them yesterday by their arrests and what we are hearing about the impending ban on the organization. So I think that much is very clear.
Let me ask Yasmin Farooqi, as General Secretary of the SDPI, there is an explicit 2019 Kerala High Court order which had banned flash hartals. In fact, that order says that anyone who wants to give a hartal or a flash strike has to give 7-day notice to the general public. Those 7 days will enable the citizens who are opposed to this call for hartal or strike to approach the court. And also, the court has said that anybody who does not adhere to this 7-day notice, their hartals or protests will be deemed illegal, and the person/party calling for the hartal would be liable for any damage caused to citizen and government property pursuant to the call for hartal/general strike. Majid Hydari, you want to take that?
Well, see, Zaga Saab, firstly, violence cannot be defended or supported by for law, logic, or wisdom. But then law and logic needs to be applied on how the PFI is being victimized at the moment. I'll quote two facts and very recent facts. A Hindu man proposes Muslim Amir Khan's daughter, and then social media and our media calls it, what a heartwarming video. What a heartwarming moment. But if a Muslim man marries a Hindu woman, it becomes love jihad. When BJP pledges for Hindu Rashtra, it's being welcomed. But when this outfit like PFI calls about what is allegedly being spoken about them, that they said about Islamic Caliphate, we take it as an act of terror. How come two yardsticks in one country? And then who are the agencies who are going for the crackdown on these part on the
But Majid
PFI?
Hydari Saab, no. Can I ask you one simple question? Are you seriously telling me that in 21st century India, we should give a long rope or brook those people who are saying that we should go back to a 6th century, 7th century caliphate?
No, when we talk of Hindu Rashtra and Ram Rajya, it goes even back then the time of 6th century. It goes thousands of years ago. So either we stop it at both, we condemn both the things that no, in a secular country, in a secular constitution, in secular valued nation, we cannot have Hindu Rashtra idea or Muslim Caliphate or the Khalistan.
Okay,
But
because
when we
I've been
single
hearing
out only
this
Muslim Islamic
for a
Caliphate,
couple
it
of
becomes a
days now.
problem.
There is a certain equivalence that's being drawn. What about Yati Narsingh Anand? You're not going after him. What about the fellows who lynch in the name of the cow?
No, BJP lawmakers
No.
from Haryana.
I'm just curious to know. I want to ask Yashwardhan Azad. Is that, given the PFI and the action that we've seen against the PFI, and I'm only quoting stuff that's there in the public domain, they are wanted for as many as 27 cases in the state of Kerala, about 33 cases in the state of Karnataka. There are dozens of cases in the state of Uttar Pradesh during the anti-CAA riots and so on. Is it comparable? Is it equivalent that people like Majid Hydari, and I've heard this from a number of people over the last couple of days, that if you are going after PFI, what about Yati Narsingh Anand? Why aren't you going after the fellows who are calling for Hindu Rashtra, so on and so forth? Is it comparable or is it a false equivalence?
Absolutely, it's a false equivalence. There is no comparison between the two because PFI has been a subversive organization. And mind you, in 2012, the Kerala government itself, and I think it was a Congress government,
Correct,
when it went to the High Court and talked about the nefarious activities of the PFI. Now, PFI definitely has two parts. One is the political part, which is involved in almost every agitation in the country. And I'll say that even that is a democratic right which is given to them. So whether they are involved in CA or NRC or hijab or whatever, that's fine. That's fine with me. But the question is, here we are talking about three important things. One is terror funding, and the funding which is coming through Hawala route. Second is the radicalization. And third are the various camps which are taking place and the seizure of subversive literature and the seizure of guns. It is well known that in 2010, the violence which was unleashed by the PFI against that Christian lecturer, I think his name was Joseph.
Yeah.
And they have always been in murderous battles with the RSS cadres and also with the Christians over there. That is fine. That's an individual thing. Now, I'm not talking about ban here because ban means that you have to actually come on record with the kind of terror funding which has been indulged by the PFI, right? Number two, as far as the action against the activists are there, it is clear that they have been involved in various activities. And that is why I think it is most important now. NIA again is being helmed by a very competent officer, Dinkar Gupta, who has been in the IB, who's been Punjab DG. Therefore, this raid which has taken place across the states have been with the hard evidence which they have had over the years. And that's why after this, once you thread out all the pieces, I would say ban, be very careful. But as far as action is concerned against the activists, just go for it.
I just want to read out something that Yashwardhan Azad referenced to, which was back in 2012. Not a BJP government, not a communist government, a Congress government had told the High Court of Kerala that PFI is nothing but a resurrection of the banned outfit Students Islamic Movement of India in another form. This was 10 years ago. I want to ask Amna Begum Ansari, the greatest disservice that the PFI does is to moderate Muslims. And I believe, and I firmly believe, that a large majority, an overwhelming majority of Indian Muslims are moderate. But what happens with organizations like the PFI is that the majority of moderate Muslims are left holding the can for the extremist actions of a few.
Hello.
Yes, Amna.
Yes, in totally agreement, Anand, that PFI is not doing disservice only to nation, Indian nation. They are doing the disservice to entire Muslim community, and you can hear a lot of moderate voices condemning them as well. In fact, I have shared a press release of Indian Mahats community. They represent 85% of Pashmanda Muslim, and they have clearly stated that we are welcoming this step of the government to ban them. Now, the gentleman was talking about the PFI and he was bringing a false equivalence of Hindu Rashtra in it.
Yeah.
I want to tell that person ki if you need to go and check their activities from the 2010. In the year 2010, an underworld criminal, Madhur Yusuf, was extradited from Saudi Arabia on the many charges against him, some including the murder of prominent BJP leader. He was the PFI member. On 4th July 2010, a professor in Kerala, TT Joseph, had his hand cut off by the same PFI goon, only because there was some accusation against of him putting some question which was accused of blasphemy.
Okay.
Uh, and also in 2012, Kerala government informed the High Court of Kerala
Yeah.
that there is 27 homicides cases
Against yeah.
against the
PFI.
PFI. In 2010, Kerala police seized a lot of CDs which belongs to Taliban type of terror module that was also belong to the PFI. On 28 April 2013, Kannur DSP Sukuman briefed the media
Okay.
on the successful raid against. And these all cases and incident I am talking about is the before Modi government came into the
Correct.
power. Right, so they cannot bring this false equivalency by every time there is any problem in the Muslim community or extremism in Muslim community, they will bring this false equivalency of BJP being into the government. Although the same BJP has taken action on the
Narsinganand, yeah.
Narsinganand type of people, but
Okay.
they won't bring that.
Let me ask यास्मीन फारूकी. यास्मीन जी, ये बताइए, बसों को तोड़ना, दुकानदारों को टारगेट करना, लोगों के ऊपर पथराव करना, पत्थर फेंकना, क्या ये सब है लोकतंत्र? आपका जो भी ग्रीवेंस हो, आपके लोगों को कल अरेस्ट किया गया, उनको दिल्ली लेके आए हैं, ये सब ठीक है, इसको आप कोर्ट में चैलेंज कर सकते हैं, लेकिन इस तरफ का जो लार्ज स्केल वायलेंस हमने देखा केरल में और तमिलनाडु में, ये तो लोकतंत्र नहीं है।
जी बिल्कुल आप सही फरमा रहे हैं। मैं जवाब दे दूं, पूरा जवाब सुन लीजिएगा, बीच में नहीं टोकिएगा। 100% बिल्कुल आप सही कह रहे हैं, ये लोकतंत्र नहीं है। प्रॉब्लम ये है कि हमारे यहाँ लोकतंत्र बचा है क्या? क्या पूरे 75 साल में कोई ऐसी नजीर देंगे कि इतनी बड़ी रेड पड़ी हो और उसके बाद इतने सारे बूढ़े जवान, उस एज के लोग भी मैंने देखे जाते हुए जिन पे से के चला भी नहीं जा रहा था, और आप अरेस्ट करके उनको लेके जा रहे हो विदाउट किसी रीजन। आप जवाब नहीं दे रहे हो। आप बीच में मत बोलिएगा, मैं पता है कि आप क्या जवाब देंगे मुझे, लेकिन आपको मैं एक शायद इन्फॉर्मेशन दे दूं कि 1 साल पहले इसी तरह की रेट्स पहले भी पड़ चुकी हैं, लेकिन उसका कोई आंसर नहीं आया, उसके कोई प्रूफ नहीं मिले, ना कोई साबित किया। अभी मैम कह रही थी, मैं बड़े मतलब उनकी इज्जत करके और बड़े उससे कह रही हूँ कि आप अगर ये बात कह रही हैं तो अगर कोई एक पीएफआई का आदमी, कोई एक कैडर गलत निकलता है तो पूरा, ये तो आप नहीं कह सकते ना कि अगर एक घर में एक बच्चा गलत निकल गया तो पूरा घर खराब हो गया, या पूरे घर वाले खराब हो गए, या उन घर वालों ने जान करके उस बच्चे को खराब किया है। थोड़ा सा तवज्जो से सुनिए। अभी इस वक्त जितने भी प्रॉब्लम्स आए हैं साउथ में, चाहे कोविड का मामला हो, पीएफआई वाले थे अकेले। मैंने अभी बहुत डिटेल से क्योंकि बात करनी थी तो मैंने भी सोचा कि इनके बारे में मुझे मालूमात करनी चाहिए। जितने भी सैलाब आया चेन्नई में या कहीं पे भी, सिर्फ और सिर्फ पीएफआई वाले लोग थे जो कि लोगों की जा के मदद कर रहे थे, खाने बांट रहे थे। कोविड में लोग जो कि बेटा बाप को और बाप बेटे को कंधा देने को तैयार नहीं था, जलाने को तैयार नहीं था। मैंने देखा है कि पीएफआई वाले वो सारे काम कर रहे थे।
नहीं यास्मीन जी, ये सब बात ठीक है, मैं मना नहीं कर रहा हूँ, लेकिन ये लेकिन एक बात बताइए, क्या मतलब आपके लोगों को आपके लोगों को गिरफ्तार कर दिया तो फिर आप पत्थर फेंकेंगे? तो फिर ऐसे अगर लोग करने शुरू कर देंगे तो यहाँ पे राजनीतिक पार्टियां तो रोज पत्थर फेंकने ही, मतलब टाइम तो बचेगा नहीं उनके पास। तो सब लोग सड़क पे आ जाएंगे और पत्थर फेंकेंगे, बसों को जलाएंगे।
सर मेरी बात
प्लीज आंसर देने दीजिए।
या I'll come to you,
अगर मेरी बात पूरी नहीं होगी तो
जी बोलिए मैं आप ही से सवाल पूछ रहा हूँ।
हाँ, मैं आपको वही जवाब दे रही हूँ, क्योंकि मेरे लोकतंत्र का, मेरे भारत का माहौल यही हो गया है। आप बताइए, अभी वहाँ पे बिल्कुल, अगर जो कोई भी कर रहा है गलत कर रहा है, मैं उसको तायीद नहीं कर रही, आप इसको बिल्कुल मत समझिए कि मैं तायीद कर रही हूँ। लेकिन बंगाल में क्या हुआ, बीजेपी वालों ने दौड़ा के पुलिस वालों को, जो मैंने वीडियोस देखी हैं। आप मुझे एक बात बताइए, आप पीएफआई की इतनी बड़ी हिस्ट्री, मैम मैं बहुत रिगार्ड से कह रही हूँ, मैं बदतमीजी नहीं करती किसी से, बहुत रिगार्ड से आपसे कह रही हूँ, आपने हिस्ट्री सुनाई बिल्कुल होगी, मैं उसको डिनाई नहीं कर रही। लेकिन आप मुझे एक बात बताइए, पूरी गुजरात फाइल तो पढ़ लीजिए, पूरी गुजरात में आग लगी है, आप क्या बात कर रही हैं?
मैं बिल्कुल आपको इसका आंसर दे देती हूँ मैडम।
एक अगर गैर संविधानिक चीज हो रही है, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप भी मतलब कानून को हाथ पे उठाएंगे। ऐसे थोड़ी ना होता है।
फर्स्ट मैंने वर्ड नहीं सुने आपने कि मैं डिनाई करती हूँ।
Respond and then I've got a piece of breaking news coming. Yeah, Amna, yes, Amna respond. एक करके प्लीज एक करके यास्मीन जी सुन लीजिए, पिछले 3-4 मिनट से आप ही बोल रहे हैं, सुन लीजिए प्लीज। आमना या
सुनाइए, बिल्कुल मैं सुनूंगी।
जी देखिए, जब पीएफआई वाले गरीब लोगों की मदद करते हैं तो वो इसलिए नहीं होता कि वो गरीब लोगों की मदद करते हैं, वो इसलिए होता है कि वो उस गरीबी को एक्सप्लॉइट करते हैं अपने एक्सट्रीमिज्म को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए।
आप उसको भी उल्टा लेके जा रही हैं मैम, आप अच्छी बात को भी उल्टा लेके जा रही हैं, कितनी अजीब बात है।
यास्मीन जी प्लीज, उन्होंने आपके बीच में टोका नहीं है, आप सुन लीजिए प्लीज, उसके बाद आपके पास वापस आ जाऊंगा मैं। उनको रखने दीजिए उनकी बात।
पीएफआई की आइडियोलॉजी क्या है? जब इजिप्ट के अंदर मुस्लिम ब्रदरहुड बैन हुआ था तो ये इंडिया में इजिप्ट के एम्बेसी के सामने जाके प्रदर्शन करते हैं। आप उनकी आइडियोलॉजी देखिए, उनकी आइडियोलॉजी इस्लामिज्म की है। अगर वो अच्छा काम भी करते हैं और वो गरीब मुसलमानों की मदद करते हैं तो वो उसी गरीब मुसलमान को एक्सप्लॉइट करके बाहर भेजते हैं टेररिस्ट बनने के लिए। उनके लिंक पाए गए हैं जहाँ पे वो मुसलमान यूथ को लेके जा रहे हैं और वो उनको बाहर भेज रहे हैं जहाँ वो टेररिस्ट ग्रुप को ज्वाइन कर सके। आप सिर्फ उनका एक अच्छा मुखौटा देख रही है, बट वो कितना खतरनाक है आपको वो समझ नहीं आ रहा। अगर आप
यास्मीन जी ये बताइए, 2017 में एक केस हुआ था जहां 2 पीएफआई के लोगों को एक कोर्ट ने केरल में उनको कन्विक्ट कर दिया क्योंकि उन्होंने 2 लोगों को भेजा तुर्की आईसिस ज्वाइन करने के लिए। क्या ये होता है लोकतंत्र? ये है डेमोक्रेटिक? और आप ये चीज बताइए जो आमना ने पूछी है कि मुस्लिम ब्रदरहुड जो इजिप्ट में है उसका क्या लेना देना है आपसे? वो वहां पे क्या करे ना करे, उससे क्या लेना देना है आपके संगठन और हिंदुस्तानी मुसलमानों को? कोई लेना देना नहीं है। फिर भी आप आके उनके दूतावास के सामने आके प्रोटेस्ट करेंगे, ये क्या मतलब?
अगर फलस्तीन में, अगर कहीं पे भी दुनिया के किसी कोने में किसी भी इंसानियत की बात है भाई, इंसानियत के नाते मानवाधिकार वाले जितने भी हैं, अगर इंसानियत के नाते लंदन, अब आप मेरी बात
लेट फिनिश।
अगर दुनिया में कहीं पे भी कुछ गलत होता है तो दुनिया के हर कोने में एहतजाज होता है, लंदन में भी होता है, अमेरिका में भी
जो केरल में गलत हुआ उसके खिलाफ भी प्रोटेस्ट करेंगे आप?
तो उसमें कौन सी
आज जो बस तोड़े गए, जो दुकान जलाए गए, वो भी गलत था ना?
मैंने कहा ना आपसे, फर्स्ट आपने मेरी बात सुनी अगर हो तो मैंने यही कहा कि वो कोई भी काम कर रहा है, जो लोग भी कर रहे हैं वो गलत कर रहे हैं। आमना एक बात सुन लीजिए, अभी मैंने सिर्फ ये नहीं कहा कि वो मुसलमानों की मदद करते हैं, मैंने ये कहा है कि जब कोविड में कोई भी मर रहा था वो जलाने भी जा रहे थे और वो दफनाने भी जा रहे थे।
सुशांत वांट्स टू रिस्पॉन्ड। नहीं यास्मीन जी, आप इजिप्ट के बात कर रहे हैं, इंडोनेशिया के बात कर रहे हैं, आजकल आपने न्यूज में भी देखा होगा ईरान में महिलाएं आके प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं हिजाब के खिलाफ। क्या आपके संगठन ने एक शब्द बोला है?
नहीं, मैंने बोला है।
क्या बोला आपने, बताइए?
मैं तो एसडीपीआई से हूँ, मैंने बोला हर चैनल पे, मैंने बोला है कि उनको उनका हक है। अगर वो जो आपने अगर अरबिक में उसका ट्रांसलेट पढ़ा होगा तो उन्होंने ये बोला है कि हम पे जरूरी जबरदस्ती मत करो, और मैंने हर चैनल पे ये बात बोली है कि बिल्कुल अगर कोई नहीं पहनना चाहता उसे मत जबरदस्ती करो, जो पहनना चाहता है उसको मत।
सुशांत to respond, I'm getting a piece of breaking news after that. Yeah, Sushant.
So Zaka, Zaka, do you know if you ask a Pakistani about Hafiz Saeed, they will say that he's the Mother Teresa of Pakistan because his organization, the Lashkar-e-Taiba and its welfare wing, the Falah-e-Insaniyat Foundation, has been in the forefront of every single natural disaster in Pakistan. Whether it was the earthquake, they were the first responders. Whether it was the floods in 2010, whether it's the floods right now. These are guys who run medical camps and they run it for all communities. Now, according to this lady's logic, that means that Hafiz Saeed is a really nice dude and that we should all welcome him with open arms and give in to everything he asks for. Is that the argument? Number one. Number two, she says there is no precedent of such an attack. Well, such an action by the government of India. If there is no precedent, that does not mean that there cannot be a precedent made depending upon the situation. Number three, you know, for this whole equivalence which is being drawn between political violence, and I'm certainly not an advocate of political violence of any kind, but political violence by political parties, by bona fide political parties, distasteful as it is and condemnable as it is, and the fact that you need to take action against anybody who's, you know, breaks the law, all of that aside, to compare that kind of violence by a certified radical extremist organization, I don't see how you can compare the two.
Okay.
So the lady is trying to act very sweet and reasonable, but I think she's being rather disingenuous.
Okay. Amina, Yasmin ji, आप please respond कीजिए. उसके बाद I have to go to this breaking news. I hope Ananya is through on the story.
मैं बोलूं?
हाँ जी, बोलिए बोलिए.
देखिए, मैं एक बात इनसे कहना चाहती हूँ कि अव्वल तो मैं किसी दुश्मन मुल्क की बात भी करना नहीं चाहती. मेरे लिए वो रहता ही, मतलब मैं उसको एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं करती कि वो कौन सा मुल्क है. मैं उसकी बात ही नहीं करना चाहती उस घटिया मुल्क की. पहली बात तो आप मेरे से इस तरह की बात ना करें मेरे सामने. देन दूसरी बात मैं ये कहना चाहती हूँ कि देखिए, प्लीज मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है, अभी तक प्रूफ नहीं हुआ है. बाद में शर्मिंदा होना पड़ता है फिर बहुत सारी चीजों पे. कितने लोग हैं जो 14-14 साल जेल बंद करके, और आपने कहा बाइज्जत बरी होके आए, उस वक्त उनकी पूरी जिंदगियां खराब हो गई हैं.
नहीं,
मैं आप लोगों से मैं उसको मना नहीं
कोई
कर
इस
रही.
शो पे कोई ये नहीं कह रहा कि आपके लोग जो 100 से ऊपर लोग जो गिरफ्तार हुए हैं, कोई नहीं, आपके संगठन के लोग, कोई ये नहीं कह रहा कि ये दोषी है. लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप पत्थर फेंकेंगे, बसों को तोड़ेंगे, ट्रेनों को जलाएंगे. ये थोड़ी ना बना उसका मतलब.
मैंने ये इस बात
आप अदालत पे जाइए, आपका निर्दोषता आप साबित कीजिए, कोई नहीं रोक रहा आपको.
और 2-2 साल तक और 14-14 साल तक बंद रहिए और आपकी
नहीं, वो कोई नहीं कह रहा. कोई नहीं कह रहा कि मतलब जब जैसे गिरफ्तार हो गए वो दोषी है. नहीं, कोई नहीं कह रहा. लेकिन उसका मतलब ये नहीं है ना, हिंदुस्तान के जेलों में आपको पता है कितने अंडर ट्रायल्स हैं. नहीं, एक सेकंड, यास्मीन जी, अगर किसी को गिरफ्तार करके जेल में डालने से उनके परिवारजन अगर सड़कों पे आएंगे, आपको पता है कितने लोग अंडर ट्रायल हैं? 5 लाख से ऊपर लोग अंडर ट्रायल हैं हिंदुस्तान की जेलों में. उन सब के परिवारों को आ जाना चाहिए बाहर सड़क पे, और बसों को जलाना चाहिए, पत्थर फेंकना चाहिए. यही है लोकतंत्र, यही है कानून व्यवस्था.
आप मेरी बात को सुन नहीं रहे हैं. शायद मैं बार बार ये बात कह रही हूँ कि वो गलत है. आपने वो बात सुनी ही नहीं मेरी, बाकी की बात सुन ली. वो गलत है.
तो अगर गलत है तो आपके संगठन ऐसे हरकतें क्यों कर रही है? यही तो मैं पूछ रहा हूँ.
वही तो मेरे समझ में नहीं आता कि हिंदुस्तान की जनता को क्या हो गया है कि कभी मैंने देखा बंगाल में अभी बीजेपी वाले पुलिस वालों को मार रहे थे. मतलब मैंने जो हालात देखे हैं, अभी आपने अग्निपथ पे देखा.
अच्छा, जो पीएफआई ने आज हिंसा की, वो हिंदुस्तान के लोगों की गलती है. ये तो बड़ी अजीब बात कह रही हैं आप. Anyway, let me one second, Majid, I'm coming to you. Yashovardhan Azad, I'm coming to you. But let me get a breaking news in, please. 2 minute दीजिए. CNN News 18 has now accessed the charge sheet that's been filed by the police in the hijab matter in Kundapura in Karnataka. Remember, this happened in February. The charge sheet says that out of the 5 members named in the charge sheet, 2 are PFI members. The accused have been identified in the charge sheet as Rajab and Iftikhar. They were connected to the PFI. The charge sheet says that their intention was to assemble with deadly weapons and instigate religious feelings. Let me go across to Ananya, who has more details on this. So this becomes yet another case in the whole litany of crimes that the PFI and its members are alleged to have been involved in.
Well, yes, in fact, Zaka, this is the same charge sheet that was given out before the Karnataka High Court and also the Supreme Court. This was filed soon after these protests had broken out. However, it was kept due to its sensitivity, it was kept into a lot of secrecy, but we have still managed to access some of the pages of this. In fact, the charge sheet has been filed by the Karnataka police. And what is very, very crucial to note is that on the basis of this particular charge sheet, the arguments were made by the Karnataka AG before the Karnataka High Court that the PFI and the CFI are actually involved into this particular case. And a very clear observation when the hijab verdict had come in from the Karnataka High Court, it was there that the Karnataka High Court, after considering all of these documents, had noted that the police investigation is at a very initial stage and there is a unclean hands behind this whole agitation that has happened in Karnataka. In fact, it had also said that it doesn't want to comment upon it at that moment of time. And remember that this is the same document that was also referred to by the Solicitor General and the Karnataka Advocate General before the Supreme Court of India of Justice Hemant Gupta and Justice Sudhanshu Dhulia. Though the court had refused to ask for the full copy of the charge sheet, it was satisfied with what the SG and the AG had told the Supreme Court. But they were ready to supply it. But this, what it basically says is that two things, that two of these people who have been named out of the 5 people were actually connected to the PFI, though the exact role of it is mentioned in the full charge sheet, which is kept for a secret notion of secrecy with the polices. But what we have accessed is that it is said that the allegations that are there in the charge sheet is that there was an intention to incite religious feelings, and they were also armed with knives at that protest site, and the Karnataka police had then apprehended these people. So a big charge
Ananya,
coming
we'll leave it
in.
at that. Ananya Bhatnagar there with more details of this charge sheet in which 2 out of the 5 accused are PFI members. Let me get a quick word in from Yashu Azad and Majid Haidari. So Yashu Azad, this is yet another case. I mean, this should be absolutely unsurprising that 2 out of the 5 members who initially instigated this whole hijab protest happen to be from the PFI.
Yes, in fact, there were allegations then, and it has now been proved. And in fact, the links of the PFI are also there with the riots in Delhi. They have also been linked with funding many of the troubles which have taken place across the country. You know, Zaka, there's another point, and you know, I would urge people like Yasmin ji कि you know, आपके ऐसे संभ्रांत मुस्लिमों को ये जो गतिविधियां हैं ऐसे PFI वगैरह की, उसको वाकई कंडेम करना चाहिए. और जिस तरह की मुझे कोई हिचक नहीं है कि आरएसएस में अगर नरसिम्हानंद जी हों चाहे कोई भी नंद जी हों, उन्हें सीधा बंद करना चाहिए, बाहर ही नहीं देने आना चाहिए. जब तक कि नहीं मॉडरेट मुस्लिम्स की आवाज और बुलंद होगी, तब तक ये माहौल ऐसा ही रहेगा. और हमें फैक्ट्स पर जाना चाहिए, emotions पर.
Okay, Majid Haidari, I'll, you know, to be fair, a lot of Muslim organizations, All India, Tanzeem Ulema Islam, Kul Hind Markazi Imam Council, Muslim Students Organization, they have all come out and said that the action taken against the PFI is consistent with the law. No one should be indulging in terrorism or radicalization. In the name of social work, you are poisoning young minds, you are into terror funding. So the point being that ultimately the people who suffer the most because of actions of organizations like the PFI are moderate Muslims of India.
Zaka Saab, I'll make 3 quick points in less than a minute. I hope you will give me that much of space.
Sure.
First, what VHP is to Hindi heartland, PFI is to South India. If PFI is bad, so is VHP. If VHP is good, so it's PFI. Either ban both or let both work. Second, PFI has been booked of terror funding banking transactions dating back to 2020. And our government in 2016 said that demonetization has ended terror funding and Hawala funding, blah, blah, blah. So either government was lying that time or NIA is lying this time. Now, third, the credibility of our elite investigative forces, the NIA, the ED and the CBI, which have been domesticated by BJP. I'll tell you how. The NIA since 2014 has never touched anybody linked to BJP, VHP, ABBP, whatever, whoever has a saffron link. They are in fact giving clean chits as has happened in Malegaon blast and other blasts. NIA, the CBI only today filed a petition before a court that Yashwant Shinde's petition that he knows about the saffron terror should not be taken cognizance of. And then Enforcement Directorate has conviction rate of less than 0.05%. And very recently, Jacqueline Fernandez said that they are siding with Nora Fatehi. So that is the kind of credibility these investigative agencies have since 2014.
Okay.
So why should we trust them? Very simple. This is witch hunt, typical witch hunt of one particular community.
No. Witch hunt or otherwise, all of these things can be argued in court. It boils down to one very, very simple fact. You cannot subvert the due process of law because you think you have some kind of street veto. That is unacceptable in a democracy, and I think that is the bottom line. You cannot damage public property and think that that will then send a chilling effect to the legal process. No, absolutely not. If the legal process has arrested you, they have to produce you in a court of law. They have to prove that you're guilty in a court of law. That doesn't mean you take the law into your own hands. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. I'm going to thank all our guests. We'll see how the story plays out for the PFI and whether or not this is actually laying the groundwork for a nationwide ban. We'll take a quick break. As we take that break, do not forget to vote for your favorite startup, the unicorn that you feel deserves to be the Indian of the Year startups. Just go to indianoftheyear.com and vote. And I'll see you in just a moment right on the air.
That participates in the hate architecture sponsored by BJP and this government. When you have the national government working to build hate architecture, when you have international agencies talking about how the over 55% of anti-Muslim hate tweets on internet came from India, and definitely BJP is a major participant, BJP supporting media is a major participant, then you don't know which is the end where you will start solving the problem. We can discuss the problem, but neither you nor the respective Bikram Singh knows that which is the right end of the problem. I believe the right end of the problem is Home Minister of India. He has to decide whether it is he is participating as Hate Minister of India or he is participating as a Home Minister of India whose responsibility is communal harmony is maintained. Organizations that are against communal harmony, whether it is BJP and RSS based organizations or whether it is PFI, those organizations are checked, and the federal government is not playing against the state government for petty politics to engineer such organizations. The last but not the least, you have Mr. Siddaramaiah, former Chief Minister of Karnataka, going on record and saying that BJP is supporting PFI and SDPI and such organizations to divide society. So if BJP is at the core of the hate architecture in India and Home Minister is unsure whether it is his Home Minister or hate Minister, then we will continue to have discussions, but they will not be meaningful.
Since yesterday, I've been hearing this argument. Many are calling this equivalence. Many are calling this false equivalence, that you can't just go after violence on one side. Yes, the PFI indulged in violence. No one should, in their right mind, condone that. But equally, at the same time, there's violence from the Hindu side as well. Yati Narsingh Anand, for example, is still roaming scot-free. What about hate speech that comes from the Hindu side? How come there isn't action, or at least timely action, that is taken against that?
Destruction, vandalism, anarchy. A day after the biggest crackdown on Popular Front of India, its members went on a rampage in Kerala and Tamil Nadu. The PFI had called a bandh to protest against the midnight raids and arrest of its key leaders by central agencies. But PFI members used their Hartal call as an excuse to go on a vandalism spree. State-owned buses and auto rickshaws were pelted with stones.
Inside this bus, we can see that there are fragments of glass that is there all over. There are big stones that are inside this. So this is a condition in most of the vehicles where buses have been damaged like this.
Tires were burnt and even private vehicles were not spared.
That the Hartal supporters, they took away the key and blocked the road. Now the police have gave a direct connection, and now they have started this truck. So the technique was to just to block the truck and take away the key.
PFI workers were even caught on camera hurling petrol bombs at the offices of the RSS and the BJP. In some places, PFI workers tried to forcibly shut shops that were open despite their Hartal call, but locals gave it back to them. The protest turned violent. The Kerala High Court initiated suo motu cognizance against PFI leaders for calling flash Hartal despite it being banned by the court earlier.
So far in all across state, more than 400 persons have been put under preventive arrest and more than 500 persons have been arrested.
From being a threat to national security to vandalizing public property, is it time to ban the PFI once and for all?
All right, but first let's take a look at how widespread the violence and vandalism today in Kerala was. This is all the way starting from Kannur and Wayanad in the northern part of the state, Kozhikode, which is the third biggest city in the state. That entire belt, which is called Malabar, public transport was targeted, schools and colleges were shut. But it's not just there. It's also in the southern districts, Alappuzha, Pattanamthitta, Thiruvananthapuram. Again, places where you would imagine that the PFI's strength or its tentacles haven't spread that far and wide enough. Even in those places, you saw large-scale violence today. In Tamil Nadu, again, it was in the city of Coimbatore, which is, of course, the biggest city bordering Kerala. It was a spillover effect of the violence that we saw in Kerala spilling over across the border into Tamil Nadu. So clearly, a bulk of the violence today concentrated in Kerala as well as in Tamil Nadu, despite the fact that there are explicit orders. The Supreme Court has explicitly banned any kind of Bharat Bandh. The Kerala High Court has put up multiple orders saying that no one can call for flash strikes or hartals. And yet, today, what we have seen is widespread disruption of normal life across the length of Kerala. Let me go across to Vikram Singh. He's former DGP of Uttar Pradesh. Ghanshyam Tiwari, spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, joining us. Aarti Agarwal is author and researcher. Dr. Tara Karta is former director of the National Security Council Secretariat. And Maulana Ali Qadri will be joining us, Islamic scholar. Let me start with Vikram Singh first. They say in India, if the police force in any state wants to stop a riot, then even God cannot create a riot. So tell me what exactly happened today, because what we saw today, sir, was widespread violence. It was in the northern districts, it was in the southern districts, and all of this seemingly to protest the arrest of Welcome back. Our second story tonight, India's cities are drowning. First it was the IT capital, Bengaluru. Now it's the Millennium City, Gurgaon. One spell of rain, 15 minutes of rain, and it's the same picture. Submerged roads, crawling traffic, cars that are stuck in knee-deep water. The question is, if our modern-day cities, if our 21st century cities cannot take this, then who should be held responsible for it?
A fresh spell of rains, an old story. Bengaluru and Mumbai then, Millennium City, Gurugram today. Traffic at a virtual standstill, schools and so-called dispensable services shut, advisories and warnings, the flimsy formula the Aam Aadmi has learned to accept with a shrug. So what if this NCR town houses country headquarters of multinational corporate giants? The administration asked corporate offices and private institutions in the district to guide their employees to work from home.
12 बजे के करीब बारिश हुई थी और उसके बाद देर रात तक बारिश रही है और यही वजह रही है कि गुरुग्राम के बहुत से इलाकों में काफी पानी जो है वो भरा हुआ है.
The culprit is continuous and heavy rains over the past 24 hours. The Gurugram Metropolitan Development Authority says it deployed teams on the ground through the night to remove water from critical areas. 3,000 cops, PCR vans and tow-away vehicles were stationed to ease difficult situations.
इनको पहले से अपनी प्रिपरेशन करके रखनी चाहिए ना, जब इनको पता है कि इस रोड पे पानी काफी ज्यादा भर जाता है, लोगों को दिक्कत परेशानी होती है आने जाने में.
पानी में कितना पानी भरा हुआ है, इतना गवर्नमेंट ने अच्छे रोड बना दिए, सुप्रीम कोर्ट इतना अच्छा पूरा वीआईपी रोड है ये, फिर भी इतना पानी भरा हुआ है.
पंप से पानी कहाँ जाएगा? नीचे जाएगा, नीचे फिर भी भरा पड़ा है. आप नीचे अगर कोई बंदा जाता है नीचे भी तो पानी भर रहा है. पंप से ये तो है नहीं है पंप से यहाँ का पानी नीचे फेंक दोगे.
The Met Office forecasts more rains in the Delhi NCR region over the coming 2 days too, on account of a stated cyclonic circulation over northwestern MP and southwestern UP.
Now rain over NCR will gradually reduce. There are chances like Delhi today, we have given moderate. Yesterday we have given heavy and it was realized. Today we are giving only moderate rain, but tomorrow there are chances that rain may increase actually. By 25th night, NCR will be clear from cloud.
Bear in mind that like Bengaluru or Mumbai or Chennai, Gurugram and Delhi NCR are among the country's frontline metro municipalities, big industry and big tax collections. As infrastructure cracks attributed to nature's fury show up again and again, the refrain that arises is, doesn't the Aam Aadmi deserve better?
All right, we're also opening up our phone lines tonight and asking a very simple question from Bangalore to Bombay to now Gurugram and Delhi. Who is accountable for our sinking cities? You can call us. Please do call us 01204341895 and please do share your views. Our panel joining us this evening, Dilip Cherian is founder of Perfect Relations, Dishu Kukreja is world-renowned urban planner and architect, Dr. M. Ramachandran, former Secretary in the Ministry of Urban Development, and Umesh Sehgal is former Chief Secretary of Delhi. Dilip, let me start with you first. There's got to be a problem. There's definitely a problem. It's not a one-city issue. It's Bangalore, it is Bombay, it is Delhi and Gurugram. And for God's sake, Gurugram is called the Millennium City. It's a city that's come up only after the year 2000. And if this modern-day 21st century city cannot handle a bout of rain, then I shudder to think about some of the age-old cities that we have.
Actually, age-old cities are better off. New age cities are in much more dire distress. Planning is bad. Water flows are obstructing what used to be traditional flows. A receding monsoon, which has been over generous as compared to the monsoon, which barely gave Delhi too much rain, is causing a problem in the NCR region. And is this something that's going to go away? I suspect not. Government intervention needs to go beyond the monsoon season. It's not about cleaning and clearing up drains or putting pumps into place. It's about figuring out whether the lay of the land, the way drains and natural flows of water have been obstructed, can be reopened again. And that's probably the only answer we have in the medium term. Will it work in the short term? No. Is there going to be distress in the short term? I suspect there is. But I think that it's going to get worse if we continue with this kind of rampant urbanization, which is unplanned and does not take into account natural contours of the land.
You know, the amount of revenues that the Metropolitan Corporation of Gurugram gets annually is about 3,000 crores, of which close to 1,000 crores is just property tax alone. So I want to ask Dikshu Kukreja, it doesn't take 3,000 crores to clear drains, surely. I mean, you have the biggest IT cities, IT parks in the outer ring road in Bengaluru. Look at what happened a couple of weeks ago. Infosys, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, all their offices drowned in water. It's not a lack of money.
So, Zach, it is really ironical. It's really ironical because, the way Millennium City is shaped up and the visuals that you are showing, I happen to have landed in London today and my plane could not land because of torrential rains that were taking place here. But when it landed and when I drove into the city, everything was so well managed. There were no such images out here in this part of the world. And this is also an old city, by the way.
Correct.
The infrastructure plan, I think in the Gurgaon, what is unfortunate is that there is a complete mismanagement right from the word go. When you look at the faulty planning, there itself, there are problems associated with the way the L1 tenders are done, and there's poor planning, not adequate capacity building is done. And today we all know that climate change, etc., you do have flash rains. And
Correct.
In these kind of situations, we have not done the adequate capacity sizing for an infrastructure. Added to it comes the fact that when you look at the execution, the roads are so poorly constructed that after a couple of years, the roads cave in or start falling apart. And then roads always need a maintenance. And that is something lacking in the case of Gurgaon, and for that matter, most cities across India.
You know,
So I
Dr.
think while the
Ramchandran,
solutions are simple,
yeah.
it's just sad that this is happening.
Dr. Ramchandran is the former secretary in the Ministry of Urban Development. Look, I think it's a very simple thing. It's lack of drainage systems. I can understand that in every city there will always be low-lying areas, and those low-lying areas will flood. But how can you have highways that are completely flooded out, Dr. Ramchandran? I mean, this is basic lack of drainage, proper functioning drainage systems. That is what it boils down to.
If you're talking about national highways, I think they have a system of providing for drains on both sides of the road. But if you look about the city per se, one good way of understanding would be what is the total length of roads and what is the drainage coverage in the city. If you don't mind, I'll just quote one figure. This is about a study which was undertaken some 10 years back. For Bengaluru, the coverage was 5.3% with drains. So that you can imagine the dimensions of the problem. For Delhi, it was again 5.4%. This may be a little outdated. Of course, it has changed to some extent. So when we build roads, if we don't provide for drains, and drains which can carry water and take it out. Of course, excessive rains, one can understand it could take some time for the water
so I'm sorry I'm interrupting. So when somebody builds a road, assuming a road contractor is building the road, whether it's under the national highway, state highway, whatever it is, whose responsibility is it to provide drain in those roads?
In the specification, it has to be included that there should be a drain as well. That's what I said. National highway is different culture. But if you look at cities, what normally happens is, I'm sure we all have seen, the footpaths are taken away to widen the roads. And along the sides of the roads, there is no proper drain built. The water can flow. That seems to be the pattern in a good number of our cities.
Okay, I want to go across to our first caller. Mr. Rangarajan is calling us from Bengaluru, where we witnessed just a couple of weeks ago large parts of what's called the Outer Ring Road, the new IT corridor, completely submerged. Now, when you see what's happening here in Gurugram, Mr. Rangarajan, what does that make you feel? Does it make you feel angry?
No, I've been living in Mumbai. I lived in Gurgaon. I have lived in Bangalore. I see universally we have a lack of planning. Town planning, urban planning is lacking. We have seen the experience of in Mumbai about 10 years back, 10 or 15 years back, and the entire city was drowned. And we never learned experience of making new urban planning. And it's very thoughtless of the managers of the urban planning in all the metro cities. We are not planning for the future. I am sitting with my grandchild who is listening to it, and she says, what is the future for us when we will not be allowed to go to school, will not be able to reach the offices, will not be able to do anything when the season strikes, the rain strikes.
All right. Thanks very much, Mr. Rangarajan. Incidentally, here in the entire National Capital Region, schools were shut today because there was no way that kids could reach school. I mean, can you imagine, like, you have to go back to online classes just because, a city can't handle rain? Arindam is calling us from Gurugram. Yes, Arindam, which part of Gurugram are you, and are you relatively safe and okay?
Safe or okay, I can't say, but we are staying in Venice.
Okay.
And all surrounded by water. Whenever it rains, the water nearly gets in. I am in sector 56. And in our area, in the specific area where I stay, we get water. We are just next to the golf course extension road, which is supposed to be one of the posh roads. Unfortunately, 5-6 years back, the same issue had happened. And then the government had, the municipality said that they don't have funds. Then they made a development authority, and even the development authority doesn't do the work. So it is all the right hand blaming the left hand and the left hand blaming the right hand.
All right. Thanks very much for your call. Fascinating thing about Gurugram is just in the last 2-3 years or so, there is a fascinating set of underpasses and over bridges and all of that that's come up. But for God's sake, build some drains, will you? Build some drains where the water can drain out too. Anyway, let me go to Umesh Sehgal, because everybody, all of our callers, all of our guests are saying, sir, this is just simply bad urban planning. So I keep coming back to that question. I mean, whose job it is to do this urban planning? When a road is built, is it bound on the contractor that you also have to build the drain adjacent to that road?
No, that is a must. There is a drain adjacent to every road. There has to be a drain. But the water ultimately has to be, if you see the macro position, this is the micro position, it drains into the next drain. But ultimately, where is it to go? The water has to flow into the Jamuna. Now, one of the things that we have ignored is, except the some part of Lutyens and some part of the ridge, our Delhi is same level as almost the same level as the mean mean flood level of the Jamuna. Now, as the rains come, especially in the hinterland, as in Delhi, the Jamuna level rises. So, the water which flows in from the storm water drains, from the road drains, it goes into the storm water drains. From the storm water drains, it goes into the river. As the river rises, the flow of water decreases. It comes less. And the second problem is your underpasses. Underpasses, they have put pumps. Pumps are not enough to take away the rain in less than a couple of hours. So, in my view, the solution is rainwater harvesting. We have to harvest part of this water, let all the water not flow into the Jamuna. If roof water can be taken into the storm water drains, into the groundwater, why not road water as well?
All right.
And if some technological improvements have to be made, let us work on it.
I think that's
because
a fair
unless
point.
we do that, year after year, we are going to have the same problem.
Yeah, if you can do rainwater harvesting for buildings, for houses, apartments,
properly
etc.
designed. We need. No, it can be made for roads also. It can be done,
correct. I agree with you.
There is the problem. They say there are tires and.
Yeah. All right.
So
Let me get a couple more callers in
this problem will remain.
because that's the whole. We're trying to get as many callers in. Madhav Rao is calling us from Bangalore. Mr. Madhav Rao, good evening.
Yeah, good evening to all the panelists also. I mean, I have only a very simple point. I don't want to use any technical jargon. I want to make it very, very simple here. Okay. See, Bangalore, yes, we have seen there are a lot of problems regarding flooding, and same thing we are seeing elsewhere also. See, it is very simple. When we are hungry, what we will do? We will not really do anything. We just go out and out to get our food. It is very simple. So, when there is any problem, it should not be so difficult to solve the problem. It is only the question of really showing that intent and seriousness to solve the problem. In a legislature or a parliament, if they want to really get their wages increase, okay, either the MPs or the MLAs here, what they do, they take 10-15 minutes actually to get that bill passed.
Okay.
Whether it is pension or wages, whatever it is. Such a serious problem. If they really want to solve it, it's not difficult at all. Once they decide, automatically all the technical points will come.
All right.
There are such eminent people are there, intelligent people are there. It should not be difficult at all.
All right, Mr. Madhav Rao, thank you for your call. Kushal is calling us from Delhi. Kushal.
Yeah, good evening to all the panelists and everybody here.
Yes.
This is an annual problem or happening for last 70 years. Maybe it was less earlier and more because of uncontrolled constructions and all these things. Narrow lanes, by lanes, city developing to more than their magnitude. Whatever is being done is under the government eyes and their ears, but nothing is being done to control anything. Every year we spend so much of money, and where it goes finally, in which drain, nobody knows.
All right. Okay, Kushal, thank you for your call. Let me get a couple more callers in. Unni Nair is calling us from Gurugram. Yes, Mr. Nair.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Zaka, good evening. I'm calling you from Gurgaon, sector 57. Now, this is something which we had been, debating every year, and this has been going on in Gurgaon for the last 3-4 years. No, but nothing is coming out of this. Now, I also feel that as taxpayers, we all are responsible for this. We are not raising our voice against this as a community. And that's primarily the reason that, this is going on for year after year, and we are suffering year after year.
Okay, thanks, Uni, for your call. Can I ask Dilip to respond to that? I mean, there's a view, a large section of people are saying that, it can't just be the politicians, it can't just be the government. How much can government do? Do you subscribe to that view?
I don't. Most of what is needed at this point of time is actually large-scale intervention, not in the hands of even RWAs. So you really need to, as one of the panelists has said, think in terms of redesigning a lot of things.
Okay.
How roads are constructed, what stormwater drains can do, how can you ensure, for example, that much greater levels of water harvesting can be encouraged. These require very simple but large-scale governmental interventions.
All right.
A tax break to road constructors who actually do this, whatever it is. So I think that it's very generous to say we must all be responsible, but there's pretty little that individuals can do when it rains and pours like this.
I think,
Governments
as individuals, as, companies, private establishments, we pay our taxes. It's not our job to go build roads or drains. It's the job of the government. It's the job of the contractors to do that. It's the job of the government to ensure that contractors build those drains. It's the job of the municipality to ensure those drains are cleared out before the monsoon season. Anyway, I've got Brijesh, who's also calling us from Delhi. He'll be our final caller. Yeah, Brijesh, quickly, please, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, Jaka. I have just heard all these panelists. These people have pointed out so many things and all. At the same time, what we have learned from the Lutyens Delhi, the Britishers 75 to 80 years back, which they have built up the system in New Delhi area.
Correct.
We should learn from them. Okay, fine. How the drainage should be made in the city so that there should be no waterlogging and other things. We
All
have
right. Thank you
so
for your
many...
call, Brijesh. Let me quickly ask Dikshu Kukreja that. This is something that Delhiites always ask. How come Lutyens Delhi never floods? I mean, it's 100 years old, whereas Gurgaon, which is 20 years old, is all flooded. All right, I think we've lost Dikshu. Mr. Ramchandran, you want to respond to that?
See, New Delhi is a different type of area where we all know that the construction is not to that extent as it happens in normal other cities. It's much more spread out, and it had originally been planned, so there is a flow of water. Of course, we are building new structures which may come in the way. That has to be watched. So it's an old planned part of the city as far as New Delhi is concerned, and there it is much more open. The roads are wider, all these are.
No, so net, what he's saying is we used to plan our cities better 100 years ago than we are planning 20 years ago.
There is a big failure as far as this entire process is concerned. It's not one single person. The local body itself has a certain responsibility.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. I'm afraid, I don't know if this will cut ice with the new folks, the new generation that's paying taxes, whether it's in the IT corridor in Bengaluru, whether it's in the cyber cities of Gurgaon. Why should they have to bear the brunt of bad urban planning? And it's a story year after year. Thanks very much for your time. Mario joining you in a moment.
Hello everyone, you're watching News Epicenter with me, Maria Shakil. We are starting with some piece of breaking news that is coming in now. In what clearly is a shocking incident, that after a 19-year-old girl named Ankita went missing in Rishikesh, 3 suspects have been taken into custody, including Pulkit Arya, the son of former Uttarakhand Minister Vinod Arya. Ankita was working as a receptionist at a private resort owned by Pulkit Arya, and the accused has now confessed to having pushed her into a canal after there was a dispute over something. The accused say she drowned. Police have not recovered the body so far. The search operation is currently underway. Ankita's family has demanded swift action against the accused. Locals even vandalized the resort owned by the main accused, where Ankita Bhandari was working.
ये बहुत दुखद घटना है, बहुत जघन्य अपराध है और पुलिस अपना काम कर रही है। गिरफ्तारियों को लेकर पुलिस ने आगे सारे काम किए हैं और ऐसी जो जघन्य घटनाएं हैं उस पर जितनी कठोर कार्रवाई हो सकती है उस पर कठोर से कठोर कार्रवाई होगी। अपराधी चाहे कोई भी हो, किसी भी सीमा तक जाकर हम इसको पूरी तरह से जो न्याय है उसके सिद्धांत पर चलते हुए अपना काम करेंगे, पुलिस अपना काम करेगी।
मामला जो है जिलाधिकारी द्वारा हमारी पुलिस को स्थानांतरित किया गया लक्ष्मण झूला को। 24 घंटे के अंदर ही हमने इसे वर्कआउट कर दिया है और ये जो रिसोर्ट का मालिक है यही इसमें अक्यूज निकला। तो मालिक पुलकित सहित तीनों अक्यूज लोगों को गिरफ्तार कर लिया है। यद्यपि इसमें बाकी कार्रवाई बाकी है और जल्दी वो करा करके भी हम इसको लोगों के सामने रखेंगे.
Investigation from Anupam Trivedi who's joining me on the phone line. Anupam, क्या investigation में update है और क्या motive बताया जा रहा है इस murder के खिलाफ? क्या motive है?
Maria, police are looking into various angles into the case, and the primary one is the girl. The police says the girl was friend with a employee of the resort, and this was perhaps the reason. This was perhaps the bone of contention between the staff and the owners. And somehow they, on 18th September, the night of 18th September, they asked the girl to go with them, and they accompanied them to Ganga River, near the Ganga River, and they murdered her, and they just drowned her body in the Ganga Canal. So the police are searching. The divers have been pressed into services to search the body of the girl. And because this incident is something very unusual in the hilly areas, and in that particular belt where this resort is located, near the Rishikesh Ganga banks, there are several resorts, and there are many local girls and boys that work over there. So the locals are very apprehensive about the security of their wards. Therefore, there has been agitation is going on, and they have been demanding the state government to raise that resort. And just to add that one of the main accused, as the DGP was telling Pulkit Arya, is the son of one of the BJP leaders, Vinod Arya. His father is the national executive member with the SC son of the BJP. So he's a political angle also in this case, Maria.
Yes, I want to understand that political angle from you, Anupam Trivedi, because the main accused in this case is son of a Uttarakhand minister, Vinod Arya. Is there some kind of cover-up? This is what is being said largely by those on ground, that the government may be trying to go slow because he is son of a powerful minister.
Maria is not a minister. His father is not a minister in the present government, but he enjoyed a position which is equivalent to a minister during the Triveni Singh Rawat government. So there have been allegations that police first didn't cooperate in this case. After this widespread kind of a protest and the pressure from the netizens, the police